Today we're going to be learning about elements, compounds, and mixtures. We talked about these words yesterday, and we're going to describe them as we go through the PowerPoint. This picture is just one circle. You can see it here, one color. This is known as an atom. I talked about yesterday when we're going to look at things in diagrams. This is a diagram of a single atom. Down here we have 1, 2, 3 atoms. Here we have a different diagram. You have orange circles, you have green circles, and you have red circles. So what is that? Well, these are 6 atoms, which happen to be made of 3 different elements. You can see that the green ones are one element, the red ones are another element, and the orange ones are the third element. So that is 6 atoms made up of 3 different elements. Here you see 2 elements, but you see that they are joined together. When 2 atoms of the same element are joined together, we know that this is a molecule. A molecule can be 2 of any kind. It doesn't just have to be the same element. So we don't call it 2 atoms joined together. We say it is a molecule. Since the atoms are the same, it is also an element, not a compound. It would only be a compound if these 2 atoms were different elements. This is a slide of 2 different diagrams that it gives you. This one we're going to talk about first. This is a molecule of a compound. We know it's a molecule because there is more than one atom joined together, and we know it's a compound because you see different types of atoms joined together. Down here we have 2 molecules of a compound. You see 2 different molecules. You see that there are different elements that are combined together, and so it makes up a compound. When all the atoms are stuck together like this in a solid element, what do you think that we call that? We just call this a load of atoms in a solid element. We do not say that it is a big molecule. We just say that it is a load of atoms together. A good example of when we science teachers use the word particle is when we're talking about the air. Because the air is a mixture of elements like oxygen, argon, and nitrogen. It's mixed with compounds like carbon dioxide, or you can say that air is a mixture of particles. So particles makes it easy for us to talk about different atoms and molecules and compounds without being specific at that time. Now you can see here that we have, what kind of things do we have here? You know, this is a single element. Here we have a molecule, but it's not a compound because it's the same element. And then here we have a compound that is also a molecule. In air, some of the elements go around as single elements, like argon. Argon floats around as a single element in the air. Or you have molecules like oxygen. Remember, it's just a molecule because O2 is the same type of atom. So it's just an element. They're combined together right here, so it makes it a molecule. And then you have compounds. And compounds are when we have more than one type of element combined to create a molecule. Those are known as compounds. Since there is just one atom, you would write it AR. We don't put a little number after argon because the one is given. On O2, our molecule, since there are two atoms of the same element, and that should be corrected, you would write O2. This number right here is called a subscript. It goes at the bottom. You can remember that because a subscript, sub is like subway or submarine, is under. In H2O, since there are different elements, you would list both of them, and after the H, you would put a little 2 because you see here there are two atoms of the hydrogen element. Here, we only have one element. It's a gas because you can see that they're spread apart, so we know that that is a gas. Here, we know that we have a solid because they are close together, and this is the same element over and over and over. So again, just one element. Both examples are made up of only one type of atom, and that's why it's called just an element. Here's two more diagrams for you. This over here, if you just look at these, this is just another element. You'll notice they look exactly the same even though they are chemically bonded. They like to go around in pairs as a gas, or we call them molecules. Over on the right side here, you have a mixture of two elements. You have a mixture here, you have single atoms, and then you have a molecule of the same element. So you have a mixture with more than one type of atom in it. Here in these two diagrams, you have this is a compound of two different elements. Here you see one of the compounds. It has one element that's green and then one element that's red. They're all chemically combined. You can see them joined there. If you notice, there are two different types of atoms joined together. That's why those are a compound. On the right side, you just have a mixture of two elements. Here you have single elements, and then you have the molecules of a different element. If you will notice the mixture, in a mixture, all the molecules are not the same. They don't have to be the same atom. It just has to be either just a molecule or a single atom. Over the next 6 slides, there is going to be the question element, compound, or mixture. You're going to look at the diagram, and then I want you to write on your notes if you think it is an element, compound, or a mixture. After you get to the next slide, push pause so that you can answer the question, and then play in order to get the answer to check to see if you're right. So do you think that this is an element, a compound, or a mixture? If you chose element, you are correct. This is just a load of atoms in the same element. Do you think this diagram is representing an element, a compound, or a mixture? If you said element, you are correct. They may be molecules, but they are the same, so they are an element. Do you think this is an element, a compound, or a mixture? If you said that this was a mixture of different elements, You were correct. You see the different elements, but they are not chemically bonded. You can pick them apart. Do you think this is an element, a compound, or a mixture? If you said a mixture of different elements, you are correct. You see several different elements here, but again, they're not chemically combined except for these simple molecules of the same element, and you can separate them. Do you think this is an element, a compound, or a mixture? If you said compound, you are correct. You see that there are two different types of elements and they are chemically combined, and so that makes them a compound. Do you think this is an element, a compound, or a mixture? If you said compound, you are correct. There are actually 1, 2, 3 different types of elements that are chemically combined, chemically bonded. That makes them a compound. This is the last one. Do you think this is an element, a compound, or a mixture? If you said that this was a mixture of a compound and an element, you were correct. You have a molecule of the same element there, and you have compounds here. I want you to put up your iPad and go to the lab counter and get the assignment that goes with these notes.